Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Danny and Stan's Football Weekend. Well, Chiefs fans had the ultimate relaxing weekend. Sit back, kick back, watch other teams fight it out, watch the defending champions go up in flames, although I think there are a few people who maybe would have liked to knock the champs off themselves, but that job is done. Now the Houston Texans will come to town, and that means a little bit of a chance for revenge for a game from earlier this season. Also, some unfinished business to take care of. Look at the wild card weekend, 2 overtime games, a lot of interesting football to be played. A little college football, wrap up Kansas State's season. We haven't talked to Stan about that since our last podcast, and their bowl game. And just a whole lot of football to dig into. I'm sure Stan was having some fun over the weekend as he got to soak up a lot of NFL football. And he didn't even have to sweat out the Dallas Cowboys because they didn't play playoff football. So anyway, we'll talk to Stan coming up next on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast for this week as we talk gridiron with Stan Weber, and that is fun. We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Stan, I'll start out with something I touched on in the opening, and that was the issue with the New England Patriots. First of all, they didn't look like they were that great a threat, and they kind of reaffirmed that by playing a rather lackluster football game. But I think there were some Chiefs fans who might have liked to have the Patriots to come to town, not just because they felt maybe they were an easier team to beat than the Houston Texans, but also because of having the chance to be the ones to perhaps, quote-unquote, put an end to the Patriots, put them out of their misery. Where'd you stand on that?
It's a great thought if you knew it happened, but I would think, generally if the Patriots get knocked out, it's good news. No need to test that water because you just don't know. In a one-game situation, we saw on the first weekend all 4 games just came right down to the end. And I don't know which team you thought was the favorite or not, but I think if they would have played out, they could have flipped the script and the other team could have won easily. I mean, it's the NFL. They're going to battle like crazy. And I think Brady and Belichick are ones not to mess with. If they get killed, you do not have to be the one who took the shot. I remember back, for instance, Danny, the Dallas Cowboys. You mentioned the Dallas Cowboys at times, and there was a time where the San Francisco 49ers were the dominant team in the 80s and into the 90s. And they'd already transferred. Joe Montana was over to the Chiefs. Steve Young was there, but they still won a Super Bowl with Steve Young. But the Niners were a big factor, and the Dallas Cowboys needed to get through the Niners before they could ever think about winning Super Bowls and being the dominant team of the 90s. Dallas ended up being the dominant team of the 90s, but one of the big reasons why that people may not realize is Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers went and beat the 49ers and upset them. So when Dallas went to the Super Bowl, they only had to beat the Green Bay Packers. I say only because it would have been a monster of a fight to try to knock off the 49ers. they were as close to the Patriots as we've seen probably in history at that point. So I kind of remember back to those days. You don't ever be upset that this team got beat, finished off the season the way they did. 2 straight losses. You lose to the Miami Dolphins. You lose at home in a game where you're really upset and you really, you're going to really put your best foot forward, and they were unable to win. And that's also 3 home losses for the Patriots. Tom Brady's last pass is an interception return for a TD. I mean, all of these things are great muck to be all over the Patriots, and now they got all kinds of decisions. If they come back with Belichick and Brady, fine. But this might have been the blow that really changes the dynamics forever. So it doesn't matter how you get there. The thing is, win the Super Bowl. And the easier the path, the better. I think the Bills would have been a really great team to see come in for Kansas City's purposes to make the path as easy as possible. And the reason why is I think the Bills would have emulated what the Colts did last year. Going to Houston, Houston's not a very good playoff team at home. A lot of nervousness, kind of everything to lose, nothing to gain. And they got jumped on by the Colts, and the Colts looked great. But when they came to Kansas City, they were a shell of that. I thought the same thing was going to happen. If the Bills would have won the game, I think they would have been the easiest team to beat ever. They would be patting themselves in the back, first playoff win since '95. They would have. Everyone said, "Oh, look how good you are," and they wouldn't be able to replicate that for a second week. So at the end of the day, the Chiefs did not get that advantage. I think Houston's a legitimate opponent. The Chiefs are better. But over in the NFC, we've got to watch this whole thing. You're in a competition to win the Super Bowl. And I know, Danny, getting to the Super Bowl would be a big deal. And we would never look back in the season in another way that, hey, we took another step. This is awesome. But I'm still thinking about winning it all. Because I've said for a long time, I think the Ravens and then the Chiefs are the best teams. And then I thought it was New Orleans and San Francisco. Probably New Orleans before San Francisco. But when they got moved back to the number 3 seed, that made their job really hard, and they got upset. And I do think that was an upset because Kirk Cousins will not play like that every game. And Minnesota got out of there with a win. I think that was important. That helps the Chiefs' chances of winning the Super Bowl. And right now, I think they'll be a heavy favorite if they make the Super Bowl. If they get past the Ravens, boy, we're advancing ahead of ourselves right now. But I think they'll be a heavy favorite unless it's the Niners. I mean, right now we're down to 3 major teams in the NFL are left: the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Niners, I believe.
Let's talk about some of the issues in the weekend. First of all, Tom Brady. What are you seeing with Tom Brady? We know he doesn't have weapons, but do you see enough in him that if the Patriots, for instance, decided that they could go out and get some weaponry for him, or if Tom Brady decided he wanted to take on the challenge of going somewhere else, does he still have football in him?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. He's not moving so slow in the pocket where he's falling over himself. When he does fall over, there's a purpose. He doesn't want to get hit. He's going to throw the ball at the feet of some running back over there. He knows it's not going to be grounding, and he's just bailing out, looking uncoordinated. But when he has to stand in the pocket or move, he's fine. The way you have a disaster is oftentimes, think about this, Edelman dropped the pass on second down. They had no room for error, but the second down drop is what lost the game. If Edelman would have made the catch, he would have went upfield 5 yards, got tackled. The Patriots would have a first down. They wouldn't have missed on 4th down, and I'm not so sure they would have missed again. I mean, so it's weird how this stuff works. Edelman was injured. I think if Edelman were 100%, week 5 Edelman, I think they would have won. I think that he only needs one weapon. It doesn't matter if he's double covered. But the accuracy of the balls are on target. The velocity is good. He's picking out the right receivers. He obviously mentally is still way advanced. So, no, I definitely think he's a quarterback who could win and has gas in the tank with the Patriots. Now, to try to reload and say it's going to be easy somewhere else. This isn't a Joe Namath type of deal, and people may not even know that Joe Namath actually left the Jets. Yeah, and he was a broken down, right? Because he was so broken down,
right?
He couldn't do anything. It's not like Joe Montana when he came to the Chiefs
at the end of
and
his
Johnny
career.
Unitas went to the Chargers,
right?
And it was a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
But I would look more like Joe Montana. Joe Montana was fine with the Chiefs. He did fine. He took him to the AFC Championship game, and it's partly because he's magical. It's Joe Montana. He made the right throws. So given the right situation, yes, Brady could replicate what Montana did, but I think it'll be much easier. He'll be much more dangerous if he's a Patriot because it's the Belichick-Brady magic. It's the Tuesday meetings where they sit down and they say, this is how we're going to win this game this week, and they play off offense, defense, and all of that, complementary football. If they decide to break up, then it becomes more of a variable. Just plug him into another team. I don't know if they'll understand the Bradyisms. You can walk in the huddle and you can say, oh, that's Tom Brady. But to really understand when he looks at you with that look, that means something. He doesn't have, when you look in the huddle and it's third down and he looks, those guys know the ball's coming to me, or I better beat this guy, or he didn't have time to teach a new team all the intricacies. So I think that he's not near where, a good example, Peyton Manning when he went to the Broncos was just fine. He was dominant, had some of his best seasons ever, and won a Super Bowl. But when he won a Super Bowl, he was broken down. And that is not, I don't think Brady's in that mode at all. He's not hanging by a thread. He's still a legitimate quarterback.
I want to get you inside the head of another quarterback. Josh Allen did some nice things during the course of the game for a while, but then he just went into complete freak-out mode. Just get inside the head of somebody who laterals the football after a substantial gain. What in the world? And then that play seemed to invest him with, what the hell did I just do? And then he started making some really poor decisions, really bad throws. What I want, first of all, is just get into his head. But secondly, does that tell you something long-term about a guy as a quarterback?
Well, the play you talked about was so crazy that you just keep asking yourself, what the hell were you thinking? But the play that was a disaster was when he got sacked when they were in field goal position on a previous possession, I think it was. But a Buffalo Bills fan has to be distraught right now. Okay, on many fronts. Okay, you haven't won a playoff game since 1995.
You're ahead 16-0.
But you're ahead 16-0, and you're doing it with solid play. Danny, if they've been listening to us talk in this podcast, I've been high on the Bills since they went to Dallas on Thanksgiving Day. Well, I watched them. You could say why. Well, I watched them more closely that day. I know exactly what I was comparing them to, right? A baseline is important to have, and I know what a Dallas Cowboy team plays like. So when I saw the Bills cut them apart with all the right ways of doing things, the physicality, smart play, all those things, a purpose, that really made me feel good about them. Then they went to Pittsburgh and proved that it wasn't just one magical Thanksgiving day, okay? They have gone out on the road and played a high level of football. They got a coach, I think, he's on target. Josh Allen's a quarterback that's developing. Is he Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes? No, he's not in that league, but he doesn't have to be a bust. He's much better than Mitch Trubisky.
And he's got a big arm.
And he can run,
Yeah.
And so, okay, this is not Lamar Jackson with that kind of speed, but Josh Allen had turned himself into a legitimate winning type of player around a team that's growing and young and has a lot of high draft choices and everything else. Buffalo was on a very good trend line. And you remember, Danny, we've been talking about this for weeks. I said when remember the Saturday game where Buffalo went to New England? I think I said to you, I think Buffalo's the better team.
Yes, you did.
But I don't know if they're going to be able to win on the road. This is going to be hard. So now we're sitting here, and you stop the game at halftime, midway through the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter, and you just go, this Buffalo team is legitimate. I mean, they are going out and taking care of business. They look better than the Texans from A to Z. And, yeah, the game's not over. There's going to be some plays, but you just felt so good about your team, about the future. Even if you would have lost, 17-16, if they would have traditionally kicked field goals and Watson makes a great play and you lose 17-16, you're obviously devastated that you didn't win. So you didn't get your win since 1995. You still get to say we're ahead 16-0, all those things, but you go away positive. You're going like, I know you have to win when you get a chance, but I'm telling you, we are going to win the division next year. New England's not going to be the same. We're up and coming, and on every front. But you know what? You go to bed that night, Saturday night, going, our quarterback's an idiot. I mean,
right.
Our quarterback can't handle the big time. He's not even in the same league. You cannot be this dumb. You cannot take that sack, Danny. You're in field goal range. The one thing you're coordinated. You can run. You can move. Your team's better. You got a field goal. Just all you got to do as a quarterback is don't get sacked. And, I mean, he stood in the pocket and made all the wrong decisions, went backwards. That's before the crazy pitch.
Right.
He lost his head completely. So now as a Bills fan, or me evaluating the Bills, I go, I do not feel good. This may mark him for the rest of his career. He may not be able to overcome. This is a long off season.
Right.
Okay? You look in the mirror, Danny, you get critical of yourself. Confidence does not ooze out of these human beings. They're just quarterbacks. And they kind of trick themselves and say, I'm great, until it doesn't work. And then everyone's going to be on their case.
Yeah, we're just
imagine?
sitting here. We're not even thinking about it because they lost and we're moving on. When in Buffalo, it's topic A.
Yeah, every time you see him. I mean, this is bad. This is real bad for him to. Okay, we talked about this, and people who follow you and I talking. Drew Lock his freshman year got thrown in too early and had some bad stuff happen. And there was questions in my mind if he'd ever overcome it. He did, but I'll promote to you, I don't think it was his junior year until he got traction.
Right.
The second half of his junior year, that freshman year had nothing to do. He was just Drew Lock. Great athlete, big-time long ball thrower, all those things. He turned into Drew Lock. But I'm telling you, it took a long time for him to overcome the scars of getting punched in the mouth when he's a freshman, putting a guy out too early. Josh Allen wasn't out there too early, but this is the kind of thing that lingers. It is hard to win playoff games. And Buffalo just blew it, and they blew it in the worst way where the fans go home and they're so mad at the head coach and so mad at the quarterback and don't believe they have confidence in him. Where do you start? If you don't believe in your quarterback and your head coach, it is a long off season. So I thought that was it couldn't have been worse for Buffalo. I mean, when your team is stupid and a quarterback folds and does the dumbest stuff, you got problems.
Yeah.
You got real. You can say, "Oh, Alex Smith's not good enough." Well, it's totally different when you lose and you go, "He is what he is. He's going to give you the best. He's going to do everything smart." I would much rather bet on that guy than go to bed at night and go, "Our quarterback totally lost his head. What the heck is going on? What's wrong with this guy?" And I went from Josh Allen on a 1 to 10 was you moving from a 4 to a 5 to a 6, threatening a 7.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's like a 3 or 2 with arrow pointing down.
Right.
You cannot be that dumb.
Right. Absolutely. Let's so in the NFC, really the team that you think New Orleans. By the way, let's just touch on New Orleans. They've got to just feel like they've got an absolute cloud over their heads. I mean, 3 times in a row, in their mind, they're jobbed. Well, first of all, let's get your. I didn't think it was much of that egregious an offensive pass interference. I'll say that. Maybe it's because I've watched football for a long, long time, and back 25 years ago, that wouldn't even have been. Nobody even would have thought about that being offensive pass interference. But by today's standards, maybe it was, and certainly at least maybe they should have reviewed it. But first your view on that particular play, because it was the 3rd straight year where the Saints undoubtedly feel like they were wronged.
Right, or they just had an unbelievable situation. To me, the context of it overwhelms some of the logic, okay? First of all, did he push off or not? It's okay with me that it's a no call. But this is the year that they call offensive pass interference. 2019 only. Don't think about any year before.
Right.
Okay, but in 2019, they call that pass interference. Offensive pass interference. They do it often. The official not making a call, I don't think that's a bad deal by him. The action goes fast. It's not for him to call. Now, the big issue is last year in that stadium, we overreacted. The NFL, that's how much I love the NFL. I'm such a defender of the NFL. No, they overreacted completely. They made a bad call by saying we're going to review pass interference. It's been a bad situation all year because they basically decided not to overturn. So consistent with that mentality, this was proper. All year long, they haven't been overturning pass interference. But the context of we made this rule last year in the playoffs because of New Orleans getting ripped off, and now we got New Orleans possibly getting ripped off if we don't apply the rule. How could you do it again? Now, here's my big context. The NFL rule, the Chiefs fans know this, and they thought, Clark Hunt thought he was going to go to the NFL and say the rule needs to be changed in overtime. Danny, a team can't drive down the field and win the game. Obviously, people know that Mahomes just sat there on the bench. They'll change this rule. And I was laughing, going, Mr. Hunt, in all due respect, I'm glad you proposed a rule change, but did you watch the Super Bowl when the Super Bowl when the Falcons didn't get the football?
Right.
This is not. We've been through this. This
right.
Chiefs deal was not the biggest egregious event ever. The Super Bowl. So I didn't think we were going to get a rule change, but I don't like that a team can go down and win the game without the other team getting the ball. So here we are, it's 3rd down play. If they reverse it, they kind of say it happened in New Orleans. This is why we had the rule. Let's don't give Minnesota the game. They still get a 3rd down play backed up. But more than likely, they're going to have to settle for a field goal. The Saints actually get the football and a chance. And that's what I was hoping for. I was rooting so hard for a field goal as a football fan for it to be fair. I did not want to see New England dance in the end zone without the Chiefs getting the ball, New England dancing in the end zone with Atlanta not getting the ball, and I didn't want to see New Orleans sit there and not get the ball. So the call had been against New Orleans. It was this year, it was pass interference on the offense. I was hoping they would overturn it. But I have no problem with anybody who says, does the official need to throw the flag? Not necessarily. Should it be overturned? Not necessarily. But why do we have the rule? I hope it's a one-year experimental rule. That's what normally happens, Danny. If you follow procedure in the NFL, they put a rule in. It's usually a one-year experimental rule, and then they quietly, without us even thinking about it, go to the owners' meeting and say, let's adapt this rule for the long term. I don't know if we've done that this year, but I hope so. They got to get it out of there. If they're not going to overturn it during the season,
what's the point?
And they're not going to overturn it in the game in New Orleans, we just need to get rid of the rule. Let the officials go back at it. But as a Saints fan, I don't know. You don't feel as bad as a Bills fan. The Bills are the lowest of the low, man. I mean, I don't know any fan base that ought to feel worse about where they are right now than Buffalo, but New Orleans is in second place. And 2 years in a row, they had a Super Bowl winning level team, and a pass interference call controversy in their own stadium is what keeps them out. And if you're a fan of the Saints, that's what you'd be saying. We wouldn't be being fair about this. We just go, they got to overturn that call. And last year's obviously was ridiculous, not calling interference.
All right, we'll get to the Chiefs and break that down in a little more detail, but just handicap the NFC games for me.
Minnesota is a dangerous team when they play their best. There's probably a 25% chance that they play their best. If they do play their best, then you got a dead even game because Kirk Cousins, when he's playing well, is a fine quarterback. Cook at running back's very dangerous. Thielen is back, and he's a big-time receiver.
Diggs is a nice diva.
Yeah. They got weapons.
And their defensive line is a terror.
Right. Minnesota's a legitimate football team when they play their best. But they're more likely to play the dud ball that they played in Arrowhead, where anybody could have beaten them that day. And everyone wants to stick up for Kirk Cousins and say, oh, it's, look, he can win the big one now. But the fact is he's 0 for Monday Night Football, I believe.
Right.
And usually you come back to the mean. Remember, I really believed with my whole heart that Buffalo would have been coming in here like a toothless tiger. They just wouldn't have had it against the Chiefs. I more than likely think that's what Minnesota is going to do. Let me tell you, there's a 25% chance it was down to the end of the game, maybe into overtime before they decide it. But I would say there's a 75% chance that Minnesota just doesn't play at their high-level game, and that makes the Niners the better team. And then you said the NFC. So the other game, the Packers against the Seahawks, dead even game at the end. Seahawks are a better team than the Packers, but the Packers have the weather, slight weather advantage. They're used to it, and they've got the quarterback who is the biggest variable. Where, let's go back to the Chiefs as a reference point. The Chiefs are better than the Packers every day of the week. But you know what? There are instances where Aaron Rodgers makes a play. When he, you and I talked about this, when he fell backwards and flipped the ball, I think he overthrew the dude by 3 yards, and someone else went over and caught a touchdown in the back of the end zone, but they still made the play. It's not too big for Aaron Rodgers to go beat anybody on any day, and he doesn't even have to play well all game. That's the craziest thing about him. You and I were Roger Staubach fans. Okay, we remember that John Elway.
Right.
Roger Staubach and John Elway would not play well for 3 quarters and come back 2 touchdowns down in the fourth quarter and do everything right for 2 quarters and win a game with a gutsy last-minute drive. Aaron Rodgers is less likely to make the gutsy last-minute drive, in my mind. But I tell you what, like early fourth quarter, he may have a completion percentage of 48%, and all of a sudden he hits 6 straight balls, and they got 2 touchdowns, and he makes it look easy, and Packers win. So the Packers are so dangerous, they can win the Super Bowl. I don't think they can win 3 straight games. In my opinion, I don't think they'll win 3 straight games. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl. But if it's the Chiefs versus the Packers, I would just say Chiefs got all these advantages and dead even game because you don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. And we saw it so many times in the regular season. Even at the end, did they play Detroit in the last regular season game and get whipped for 2.5 quarters? And then all of a sudden he went off and made it look easy. So I do like to run it. Is it Jones is the running back?
Yeah.
He's explosive. He's good. So I don't want to make it too much about just Aaron because he's got the weapon, like to throw the football. But I think Green Bay is a team that will have that little pocket of, let's say, half a quarter. For half a quarter, they'll play great. For the other 3.5 quarters, the Seahawks will be the better team. But I don't know what that means in the final score.
Right.
But I'll be the least surprised guy in the world if Seahawks go win. They're solid. They struggled down the stretch the last few games, but Now that they found a receiver that's big and strong to go with Tyler Lockett, who's fast and elusive, with a quarterback like Russell Wilson. I mean, I love the way the Seahawks play. And it wasn't easy to beat Philadelphia. They had to do it 3 different times, but they were able to do it. So I give a slight advantage to the Seahawks. If you made me pick, I think the Seahawks win. But Aaron Rodgers is the hardest guy for me to get my arms around and describe verbally to anybody about what makes the Packers go. Because there will be, I'm going to give you a half of a quarter where he'll play out of this world, and he doesn't need to have momentum to start. It can be 2 interceptions, which he never throws those interceptions, but he can play as bad as you can imagine and turn it on like a light switch for a few minutes. Will that half a quarter be good enough to get Green Bay over the hump? I don't know, but I'll say Seahawks slightly.
Anything? Did the Titans have anything for the Ravens?
Absolutely. The Titans are the hardest team to beat right now. The Chiefs would much rather play the Texans than the Titans. Tannehill doesn't know any better than to go out and win. Tannehill may not be great next year. I'm not, when he plays well in these playoffs, it does not mean he's going to play great next year. But that guy's a winner. I mean, I've been following him closely since his college career, since he lost the quarterback battle and went to become a 1,000-yard-plus wide receiver at Texas A&M. A dominant wide receiver playing completely out of position. But he just went out to win. And he is not demoralized at all. When what happened in Miami, that bounces off of him. We talked about Josh Allen. I will be surprised if it bounces off Josh Allen, the negativity. Tannehill carries no negativity. He's kind of always been an underdog. There was a guy named Kubiak who was a Denver Bronco backup quarterback. And whenever he got a chance, he didn't care what anybody thought about him or if he wasn't John Elway. He just went out and won the game. When John Elway would have to miss a game, one time I think got the flu real bad, they played the Seahawks at home, Kubiak just went out and acted like he was John Elway, went out and won the game. Why wouldn't I? Chase Daniels got a little bit of that in him. Right. If that's the kind of, you got to understand what the mode I'm talking about. Tannehill's a winner. He is a flat-out winner, and he's not going to get nervous in the pocket. He's not going to get nervous with what's going on around him. He's going to be humble like an Alex Smith, where he doesn't care if he throws the ball 5 times. He will audibilize to the runs if Henry gives him the advantage, and that dude is on fire, hard to tackle. The coach, I think Vrabel's, the win over the Patriots will create a locker room magic where he's not just a coach, because there's a lot of just guys out there in the NFL. Right. Like the Texans coach, O'Brien, below average, not scary at all. Now, I'm not a fan of what he does with the Texans at all. Vrabel just changed my mind. I think when he ran off the field, I think the players are going to walk in the locker room and look at him completely different. And when you can start elevating your coach, the players need to elevate the coach. When Andy Reid talks, what do you think those Chiefs players do? Oh, there's no crap. There's no hey, I make millions, I make more than you. No, when Andy Reid talks, those Chiefs respond. And he's earned their respect just because he's earned their respect. Not what he says, just he is Andy Reid. I think Vrabel has got a little Belichick understanding in him, and now that they're the underdogs with nothing to lose and everything to gain, the Ravens have to play a pretty clean level of football. They are the best team, super well coached by Harbaugh. Good defense. It's not Ray Lewis over there, but good defense. Great punter and kicker. Okay, good strategist. On offense, a really hard to stop offense. But if you get lucky, and Lamar Jackson slips on a couple of third down runs that could have been first downs, and instead they have to punt, you might defend a couple of things. Get 4 punts in a game. They drop the ball once, throw an interception once, and you play a clean game and you run the ball down their throat and control the game. You got a chance. I think the Titans are the most dangerous, upset-minded team that is out there. Right in the, I'll put it in this mode. They're right there with what I talked about, the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks with Wilson is a little more steady, like they're a championship-level-minded team with Pete Carroll. So I don't think of them as upset-minded. I think of them as legitimate, like, why can't we go win? We could have been they could have had a bye. The Seahawks are on a discussion with the Saints and others. The Titans are truly an upset team. The Titans and the Texans should never make it to the Super Bowl. They should not even be considered as Super Bowl teams. But I think what will open their mind up and make them play great is I think the fandom believes that, and I think the locker room believes that. And it's great, Danny, when you accept we've done our work, now we're going to go shock the world. When you go on the road and say we're going to shock the world, you become dangerous. And I know we're about ready to get to the Texans and the Chiefs. And the best thing I can say about the Texans, other than Deshaun Watson, is they've got the cleansed mentality. The crud they've been throwing out there as a home playoff team, nervous, knowing that they should win. You've seen the Chiefs do this.
Sure.
We know this routine, right?
Yeah.
They are in shock. Deshaun Watson's face looks like, I hope I don't mess up. We're going to win today as long as I don't mess up. And O'Brien's over there, and Houston just stinks. The Chiefs beat them what? 35-0? Opening kickoff?
30-0, yeah.
You remember the opening kickoff
Yep.
going to the house?
Niall Davis.
We've seen it against the Colts. I may miss these, but I remember the Chiefs game, the Colts game, and for much of the Buffalo Bill game, they look like they're in shock and didn't know how to play. But I think now they're cleansed. They finally got over that hump. They know they aren't in a Chiefs league, so why not go out and just play? Play with an upset-minded mentality. So I think we're going to see the best of the Texans come Sunday.
And does that make it a game?
It
Chiefs
could.
are a 9.5-point favorite.
It could. The Chiefs are better on so many fronts. Deshaun Watson is going to have to play a very clean game. It's probably going to come down to this. Will the Texans get a running game going? If you go back and look, we said there was a formula to beat the Chiefs, and that was the last 3 years and into the first half of the season formula. And the Baltimore Ravens, and when I spoke to you about this, would not play out the formula of running the ball against the Chiefs. As soon as the game got close, they started passing. The Texans were the first team that came in, and they actually ran one less time than they passed in the game. And they ran almost double the amount of plays as the Chiefs did. They stuck to the running game. That used to work against the Chiefs, but that's when Spagnuolo changed. He goes, okay, the blueprint's out there. We finally found a coordinator who's willing to run, and the Chiefs said we're going to stop the run. So I don't know if the Chiefs are susceptible to stop getting run against or not. I don't know. I knew it at the first of the year. I don't know now. Just because they've done a good job the last half doesn't mean this wound isn't still there, Danny. Just be careful. But I think that'll come down. That's where the game's going to be won for the Texans. If the Texans can attack the Chiefs and run.
And that includes Watson.
Yeah, quarterback run's fine. The stuff the Ravens do, they ought to implement that.
Right.
If I were the Ravens, well look what we've seen the Buffalo Bills run quarterback sweeps. We saw the New Orleans Saints put in a backup quarterback and run quarterback sweeps. The quarterback run game is coming back to football. And now when you're at the end of the year where you don't care about injuries, it's sellout time. I think if I were the Texans, I would say Deshaun Watson is going to be Lamar Jackson. We are going to attack the Chiefs with quarterback zone reads and runs, and we're going to pass if it works. If we can get Hopkins open, if we can pass, we're going to. But we have to run the ball to beat the Chiefs, and the only way you can do that now with extra guys in the box and the confidence the Chiefs have and the play that they're getting with Matthew up close, and everyone's playing better for the Chiefs, okay? Against the run is not a weakness, but I think if you brought an extra runner in there, you could still gash the Chiefs. And once you get them questioning, once the crowd goes, oh, crap, here we go again, the players will feel it. I mean, this is how you beat the Chiefs, in my opinion.
Right.
You have the oh, crap feeling. Because Houston, I told you, duds at home, and their crowd knew it. I mean, until J.J. Watt made that sack and said, let's go, let's go, let's go, did the crowd wake up, okay? In Arrowhead, if the Texans are running the ball against the Chiefs and keeping the ball and the game's close, what are our Chiefs fans going to say?
Here we go.
Oh,
again.
crap, here we
Right.
go again. They're not going to think about the last 5 games and we don't give up any points. You create that doubt in the whole stadium, and the advantage actually goes to the visitors. So, but if the Chiefs stuff the run and just say, nope, we're a new defense, your running game stinks, you got 2 yards, and it's all on Deshaun Watson to throw the ball, doesn't matter if Hopkins or whoever. If they have to throw and you know they're going to throw, then their offense isn't going to be that effective. And at the end of the day, because I built up the Texans a lot here, the Texans aren't that good. They're not that. It's not not a dominant level coach. Super quarterback, great receiver. J.J. Watt's heavily overrated. He hasn't dominated the NFL the way everyone acts like he has for 5 years. He'll make a couple of plays, but the Chiefs will block him just fine. All the Chiefs had to do is just get out there, play solid football. They win. And the thing that's not been talked about enough is Chiefs have changed to play complementary football. They're taking into account how does a team win. Right. Rather than Mahomes. Mahomes has been talking about it.
Yeah.
Instead of going up and putting 40 on the board and say, is that enough? Mahomes used to just say, okay, Danny, Mahomes came from Texas Tech, and he treated football like it was Texas Tech. Even with the Chiefs last year, he played just like he did against Texas Tech. Now, Andy Reid advanced him and all that, but I'm telling you, he put up 40. He was magical. 5,000 yards, 50. You know the whole routine. But there's nothing in his mindset that you have as a job as a quarterback other than to go score. Why wouldn't you?
Right. Now his mindset switching to let's go win.
And Andy Reid's totally changed the mindset where, back to Staubach and Elway. Those guys could have thrown for 400 yards every week. But, they just bided their time, watched their team. And if the running backs won the ball game and the defense got sacks and, all that happened for the Broncos or Cowboys, they let them go win the game, and they threw their 170 yards. And then when the team needed them in the fourth quarter, they go, on me now, right? Let's go. That's the kind of complementary football that the Chiefs have adopted this year. They've taken the Texas Tech out of the offense. They're still lethal. They still can get it done, but they're thinking about the defense, special teams, and all of that. So the Chiefs are really a sound football team, and I don't think – you always worry when you take a little bit of your foot off the accelerator. Let's just say a sixth gear on your shifting tree. They don't use sixth gear anymore. They only use fifth, and they don't use it all the time. That overdrive, if you don't use it, sometimes you lose it. And I don't think that Andy Reid will let that happen. I think he's still got Patrick Mahomes doing enough attacking downfield and trying to create plays for big-time plays. I think the Chiefs are in a great position defensively and offensively unless a team with nothing to lose and a great quarterback go out and put his neck on the line. If I were the Texans, I would have 15 runs by Watson.
There you go.
I would have him carry the ball 15 times or more. Quarterback draws, zone reads, attack the Chiefs in the run game, and then throw when they want and hope they can keep up. Even then, they may not keep up with the Chiefs.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about college football coming up next. We'll be able to actually analyze the national championship game because it's still another week away. So, but we'll wrap up Kansas State's season and their Liberty Bowl as well coming up with Stan after an in-depth and lengthy look at pro football. That was some good stuff with Stan Weber. More coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Hey guys, it's Brian Haney, voice of the Jayhawks, and Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery. Matt, I've got a bunch of buddies coming over to watch the big game, and I need some ideas on what to cook.
Hey, let me handle it, Brian.
You're going to come over and cook for us?
For you? Maybe. But you should just let 23rd Street Brewery cater it. We could bring a big pan of Bill Self mac and cheese, wings, veggies, naked nachos, and anything else you might want.
Great. Well, you want to stick around and watch the game?
No, I've got to get back to the brewery and watch it on the big screen.
The place to get great catering and watch all the games, the 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Back with Stan, the national championship game waits another week. Why, I don't know. There was 9 days to today. They easily could have. I don't even know the logic. I don't. Somebody could explain it to me, but I'd argue with them anyway. But so we'll be able to analyze that on next Monday's Danny and Stan's football weekend. We want to get to the Chiefs game and analyze that on Monday. That will be job one. But since we last spoke, Kansas State played their Liberty Bowl matchup. They played it to the finish and looked like somehow they might steal it, but Navy was down to down all day long, the better football team. So I guess in the end what you just say is good fight for K-State. They really didn't have it on offense for whatever reason, but a fine season just with a disappointing finish. You can't help but be disappointed in the performance, but you can't help but be encouraged by the season.
Right. You can't be anything but disappointed with the result when you're that close. If Navy would have played better than K-State and won the game by 10 points, I think you could say, look at K-State, what they did, and let's get on to next year. You still got to say, well, boy, what a missed opportunity, because the game was tied, and it was fourth down near midfield. And just because it was a good call by Navy, a reverse pass, doesn't mean the ball doesn't kind of float badly and end up being incomplete. That stuff happens.
It's running back throwing it.
Yeah. So, if that doesn't happen, K-State gets the ball with 30, 40 seconds left, all timeouts. They go down with the most reliable field goal kicker in K-State history right now. He's made 89% of all of his field goal tries in his career, and he's been better this year. You win that game. So that part of it's painful, because I think winning bowl games is a big deal, and beating Navy would have been a heck of a accomplishment, especially on a day where the offense struggled. I thought that would be the real hard part of the game.
Why so mightily? I mean, they did nothing all day. Well, one drive, and that was, you got the big stop, and then you just blow downfield out of nowhere, but that was it. I mean, that was absolutely it. They couldn't even get a first down.
Well, first of all, Navy's defense is way better than people give it credit for. We started breaking down. Hopefully I said that on your podcast, but it's not just a cute little Navy team. Their defenders are way better than that. So it's unfortunate you don't play just a nice little service academy team that fights on defense and does all their assignments. No, unfortunately, they had some really good football players. So I thought the offense for K-State against the defense is the one thing that probably wouldn't come out as well as most people would think. But it really came down to Navy controlled the ball like that you'd expect. I think the K-State defense did a good job. They gave up only 20 points. At the end of the day, they did just fine. How it came on trick plays, you might get mad about that, but that's just how it has always been. Go back and watch replays of Oklahoma football. But on offense, the first possession was poetry in motion. They were running the ball against the Navy, hitting them with basic running plays, and then he designed the perfect pass play, a walk-in touchdown, but unfortunately Jordan Brown doesn't catch it. Maybe Schuyler's a little bit short on the pass, but I mean he catches the ball at the 35 or 40 and just jogs in.
Walk-in.
K-State leads 7-0, and
he dropped another one on that drive.
Well,
too.
The next drive, fourth down. Well, first of all, K-State had a penalty of 5 yards. They made 11 yards and 3 downs, but it was 4th and 4. Just take away the 5-yard penalty. K-State still has a nice drive going together, Danny, and I think they would have continued. They had a good rhythm, okay? But they didn't. They had a penalty, so it's 4th and 4. Schuyler scrambles, throws the ball to Phillip Brooks. Unfortunately, he drops the ball to 10, or he walks into the end zone. 2 touchdown passes dropped and a 5-yard penalty. Any of those 3 change. K-State leads 7-0. Feels very good, and working from the lead would have changed the whole dynamics of the game. So I proposed to you K-State scores on the first possession with a great plan. They probably win. And in what was a close game, I think K-State would have won the game. That's a little dramatic. But K-State ends up only running 41 plays in the whole day. Navy's a smart, good football team, and as soon as K-State didn't score, guess what? That group probably adjusts pretty well under fire. I think the Navy defense said, okay, let's clean that up, and let's make it a little harder for K-State. And anytime it got in 3rd and long, Navy was going to cause problems because their defense is really advanced, not only athletically and mentally. When you talk about these smart kids, military-type kids, they brought in NFL blitz. And they would line up from the tackle out to the tight end. They would line up 3 defenders and leave the guards in the center uncovered. Well, no college team does that, Danny. I mean, the NFL, you can do that because guess what? We all know one of them is going to come back to the middle. They're not going to leave the middle wide open, right?
Right.
But which one? And in the pros, it's hard to see which guy twists. And then they brought a safety. When it got 3rd and long, they won the battle. They put heat on Schuyler. He didn't feel comfortable. K-State had no answers. But only 41 plays, not scoring 7 points when every point was valuable, every play was valuable. So Navy just slipped away. And then you're talking about Malcolm Perry, the best running quarterback in college football history. I mean, he kind of got held down by K-State, and he ran for over 200 yards.
Yeah,
he ran for over 300 against
he
Army.
Wasn't killing them. It was the explosion plays.
Had a big play here or there. When K-State got ahead on the punt return, 7-3. What a critical drive by Navy. That was your chance. And Navy went out. They came out passing. I mean, he really said we're going to throw the ball, and I still would say, okay, K-State, I like this. I mean, I don't care what, you may not be ready for the pass, but still, if they're going to beat you left-handed, as we say, let's give it a shot. And sure enough, they were able to do it on that drive, move down the field, run the reverse, get a touchdown, and they went right back ahead 10-7. Navy deserves a ton of credit. Down after down, they were the better team, but K-State's won plenty of games where special teams make the difference. And it was a good season for K-State, a lot of looking up, and the biggest reason why is you got a coach who's absolutely established. When people said before the season, I think I mentioned this to you, Danny, what is your definition of a success for this season? And I said, well, it always is a bowl game. I mean, but they're picked 9th. Here's the thing that I would say is new about the 2019 season. I want to know at the end of the year how K-State's going to win games. I knew how North Dakota State wanted to win games, but this coaching staff had to come implement that in the Big 12. Not easy. With a group of players that have learned under Bill Snyder, et cetera. That transition, if your spouse dies and you marry another person, is the family going to function just fine with a new person coming in?
Right.
You hope. You want to be optimistic, but still, there's change, right? That's kind of like it was. And there's a lot of still the same family stuff, but a new guy in the head. Anyway, Kleiman comes in smoothly, totally his program. The players are all on board. Administration is, everyone's pulling in the right direction. And he was able to win enough games. And this is my question again. Can I tell by the end of the year how K-State wants to win? When you talk about a K-State game in 2020, how are they going to win this thing? 2021, we have it defined perfectly. I mean, we know exactly what he wants to do to win games, and I think that is a big check mark for success. And then when you go to 2020, the easiest thing, Danny, is to say Skylar Thompson is coming back.
Right.
Easy example for all the fans out there. A lot of different types of fans listening to us. When Missouri started this year, Drew Lock was not the quarterback. They had a lot of things going for him, okay? But they didn't have Drew Lock back, and that brought a lot of questions. This isn't 2020 hindsight, right?
No.
But I was asking this question before the season started. They had a lot of things going for them, but just because a quarterback came from Clemson does not mean that you have Drew Lock back, okay? Skylar Thompson's coming back, and he's a great fit for what K-State wants to do. He needs to improve in all that. So when you got a coach that's established, I call him established already after 1 year,
right?
Has a formula that knows how he wants to win. Every team in a league knows how K-State's going to try to beat them. I don't think that's a disadvantage, like you've given away your secrets. I think it's an advantage that everybody knows what K-State wants to get done.
And he won enough games so that the guys who were there say, yeah, this is going to work.
No doubt in their mind it works.
Right.
No doubt in their mind. So everyone's on the same page, and they got a quarterback to go ahead and execute it for another year. So, yeah, I think you should be very positive about the season A, but the future, the short-term future is all that matters. Long-term only gets there after many short-term advances. Okay,
right.
So I could say Kleiman's going to be fine over the next 5 years, but really we can just say, what about 2020? That's the easiest thing. Stay focused, and I think they're in a very good position.
Stan, always a pleasure. Happy New Year to you, and we look forward to riding on through the NFL playoffs, and maybe we'll be talking about a Kansas City Super Bowl. We'll see.
Could be. They're in a good position. Let's see.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.